So this week's episode of Call of the Night probably has one of my favorite bait and switches that I've seen this season, because when you see a man just pounding on the karaoke room's door, and you have Seri basically saying, like, I'm really popular, people tend to take it a bit far. I'm thinking, holy shit, here we go, we're in stalker vibes territory. Yes, they quickly say, like, oh, if you acknowledge them, they run away because they have no self-confidence. So it kind of downplays it, but there was so many shots where I was looking at this and I was like, damn, man, you essentially have someone who went from no friends, no even potential romantic relationships, to discovering he actually had a couple of friends throughout school without realizing it, has grown to start to try to feel feelings for someone who he wants to fall in love with, but still is confused about it. And every vampire he meets, and hell, even non-vampire related humans, they also seemingly are getting attached to this boy. So he's gone from nothing to literally basically a vampire harem. Sure, a lot of them maybe aren't in love with him, but I mean, in terms of literally being like, this boy is so curious, we want to turn him into our underling. We can't let Nazuna have him. Yes, they kind of back off, but you can see in this episode, it doesn't last for long if he's by himself. So for a man going from nothing to kind of having everything, he's overall done pretty well for himself. So I was thinking, damn, this is really going to show us that having that vampire harem's a little more deadly than even maybe the past couple of episodes have indicated. But I was actually pleasantly surprised with the direction they decided to go. Rather than making this man just some loser who's a creep who has no social skills at all, I actually liked the bait and switch of what truly was going on with that relationship and how it wasn't truly one-sided at all, and that there generally were really great friends. Yes, he ended up falling in love, but because vampires aren't supposed to have non-underling relationships with humans, you know, she eventually got to the point of saying, yeah, I'm just gonna kill him to get rid of him. The thing that kind of caught my interest was when Nazuna had her pinned down, saying, like, what made this the first time you wanted to kill? And it's like, holy shit, like, she was really going to that extreme. Something's up that she would go to that extreme over someone, basically. Apparently this is a common occurrence for her, so what's going on? To have that level of baiting and switching around, I think works so well because there's so much at face value in this show that you assume you know exactly where it wants to go. Vampire-human relationships, you know, just the whole idea of what Call in the Night's been presenting. But I like the fact that even 9 episodes in, they find new ways to impress me and surprise me, and turn a character who I thought was going to be a gag stalker trope into a dude who just honestly was heartbroken, and I love the way they played with the visuals, not only with the stalkerish directing, but even like the couple of minutes when they went into that weird filter where everyone was a multitude of colors, and our boy literally stood up and protected this man, because had he not basically tackled him into a wall, I'm pretty sure that claw would have struck his vital organs, his throat, something like that, and obviously he wouldn't have been breathing. I think it's interesting how for someone like Ko, who is such an anomaly for the vampire world, Nazuna herself isn't really a vampire in terms of being successful. She doesn't turn people, and ultimately she is seen as a failure. But then you have all these other vampires who are basically seen as success stories, and they know what to do. But now we're starting to see the cracks in their own relationship, and it seems like because Nazuna is breaking away from that predetermined vampire lifestyle, in return we have characters like Seri who's basically saying, you know, I'm not happy, I'm not fulfilled, and what I want to have is apparently illegal in vampire terms. So I like that Ko, someone who started with probably the least amount of self-confidence one could start with, has grown to really feel like someone who can, at face value, yes, at a part of it's ignorance and not really considering his surroundings and how much danger he might actually be in any particular moment. But it's crazy to see just how much, you know, his balls of steel have really dropped, it feels like. This man's throwing it in characters' faces who have, within this single episode, threatened to kill. Like, yes, you have your vampire guardian next to you, but it's still, most people would be a little more cautious and maybe would think things through, but he just points and says, you're the issue, not him, you know, saying he's just a drag. You know what, I don't think that at all. And just, I like how Ko's really breaking out of his shell. They end the episode in a way of him being a little jealous, being like, I wish I had what they had. I think we've seen a lot of development with these two lovebirds, and Nazuna and Ko. It's just a matter of when. It's not a matter of if, in my opinion. The fact that we are seeing people like this situation, I thought they truly weren't going to turn him and that she would just go along with the flow of being friends and trying it out. But the fact that he went that direction, it says to me, like, this isn't a story that's trying to say, like, vampirism is, like, this evil thing where, like, Ko's not going to turn into a vampire because in return he would ruin his life. Seemingly, if someone wants to do it, it's not the end of the world thing, it's not the worst thing ever, and I think that's a pretty refreshing take for a vampire story. Usually it feels a lot more curse-driven, like, even the good vampires in a show will still feel like they have to suck blood, and it's not like they want to, but they have to, and they're not really evil like a vast majority, or, you know, they're not going to hurt humans like a vast majority. But what we've seen with the vampires in this series, like, yes, they essentially lead on humans so they can feed, but they feel no different than a lot of normal anime characters. And I think that's such a refreshing take alongside both the visual directing, the Call of the Night setting, primarily being focused at nighttime, a type of setting we don't normally see, empty streets, but vibrant buildings lit up and everything like that. Hell, you can see how they used the color palette in a very fun way, even though they were inside a karaoke booth. I mean, it still was a pretty cool way to show how they can even spice it up in the more brighter scenes. But the fact that I think the vampire element is so different from every vampire series I've ever seen, and I love vampire series. I love them in books, love them in TV, love them in anime, but anime doesn't really stick the vampire landing as much as I think other mediums, especially literature, but I really have to hand it to Call of the Night as being one of the freshest takes I've seen, using one of my favorite monsters, but doing it in such a fresh and unique way. The big thing that I like about, I'd say, the second half, maybe even a couple episodes before the second half kicked off, is more or less how full the cast now feels. Like, the fact that you end the final moments of this episode are seeing the two vampires and the two humans, a little double date, and how fun Ko is having, and how he acknowledges that. A man who went from wanting to just kind of wander the streets alone, didn't want to go back to school, didn't feel like he fit in. It's not even just like he has friends now and he has people he talks to on the regular. It's more so like he feels social, and he doesn't feel like that antisocial kid that he started out as. And the gradual transition from episode 1 all the way to here, it feels like a realistic journey. Once you get thrown into someone who's more energetic, or into a group that's more energetic, or hell, just being thrown into a situation that's outside your comfort zone, it's a snowball effect of making you break out of your shell. It happens to everyone, just it obviously happens at different stages in everyone's life. Sometimes it will happen right at the beginning of high school for people. Sometimes it won't happen till college. Hell, people find themselves when they're in their adult life. It just depends on who you spend your time with, and as long as those people aren't putting you in dangerous situations, you know, you end up really feeling like you have a fulfilling life. I think there will be arguments that, you know, well, is being a vampire really a healthy lifestyle? It kind of feels like, you know, not that great of a thing. But I think you can just look at how the vampirism is actually being presented more often than not in the show, and it doesn't feel like something that's supposed to have this negative stigma like a lot of series do. And if they do bring that up, I think it will be interesting, and it'll be interesting to see different characters and how they present it. But given what we've seen so far, and something I've brought up quite a bit, it's not a show that brings up drama just to keep viewers engaged and to make us think the worst is going to happen. We'll have shocking, exciting moments, but as we see, going from stalker to actually a pretty nice guy, all things considered, it's just for a small period of time, and we're not going to leave us off 7 days in a week to make us say, oh man, is he going to live or die? Like, we can tell the way they use drama is a lot more organic and a lot less, I think, forced in our face than a lot of these types of series end up doing. And honestly, I find myself liking Call of the Night about 2 times more than when I started, and when I started watching the show, I really enjoyed it, so that does say a hell of a lot. Really hope we do get to see a season 2 of this, because this series is just getting started, and the more I watch, the more I enjoy. But thoughts, feelings, and theories, if you got any, on where some of these character pairings might go in the future. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. Till next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.